Some well-known brands get a facelift. This is the Focus Group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. Find us here every Wednesday live on YouTube or Facebook from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, check out our Tuesday podcast Unbuttoned, available on Tuesdays. Also available at focusgroupradio.com. So there you go. Welcome to
Tuesday available on Tuesday.
Check out our Tuesday podcast, available on Thursdays. Yeah,
on Thursdays too. Pretty much available any day. Get our Tuesday podcast any day. I like the opening, John. You're getting much better.
Yeah,
I hope you're not so. I think there was always tension with you trying to get what the opening line was going to be, but now, isn't it more relaxed?
Well, yeah. Tim gave me the ultimate feedback on that. He goes, "You overthink it. You can't think that one. You have to simplify it. You can't overthink this stuff." So there you go.
Oh, it's very good. Very good. So how are you doing, Mr. Nash?
Doing good. Doing good. We've been in town for a while. Bob's been working from home, and he's enjoying it, kind of. I mean, he's glad he's working, but I said to him, hey, this is your next 9 months. And he just said, when they open that office and we can officially go back, I'm the first one in. And I wonder how many people feel that way, actually. I mean, you get this kind of weird feedback on that. You get people like, well, it's the new norm and maybe it's going to be blended. But I know a lot of people who really want to go back to the office. Do you?
Yes, and particularly people that live in cities that don't have lots of room. So, for instance, if you have a big house in the suburbs and you have a den that never gets used, or you have a living room that never gets used, or you have a dining room that never gets used, it's easy for a big house like that to convert it into a space for your office. But if you're living in a home that's of modest size, which most people have, or an apartment in one of the big cities where you just don't, room is of a premium, it's difficult because you end up, it might be the kitchen counter that's your office. It might be the sofa and your coffee table. It might be the place where you eat every day. And then it is difficult, I think. And I know I always had, when I've worked out, and I've worked from home, got even way back in the early 90s when I was at Subaru, I'd rented an apartment that specifically had a little loft that most people would have used for nothing. I don't even know what it was for, but it was perfect for me to set up as an office. And I would walk up the 3 steps, and that was my office, and that was it. And I'd walk down, and I never used it for anything else. And you have your own little office
in the city, yeah,
which is perfect. But if you didn't, how could you two possibly work together in the apartment? You'd both be at the dining table, right?
You would do it. We have like a counter in the kitchen that would be perfectly suitable for it, and you'd figure it out. But it wouldn't be. I don't know if it's as conducive to getting a lot done as just being in an office and the random stuff of people saying, "Hey, how you doing today?"
Well, there's no chatter, so my guess is probably the 8-hour day. You probably get everything done in 2.5, 3 hours, minus all the chatter and the nonsense in the meetings, right? So that's why people have been more efficient, I guess. What did you do this weekend? And then it's lunchtime.
Yeah, exactly. So on today's show, later on, we have a shop talk that is going to look at 3 topics, actually. A couple of brands are changing their packaging. And would you call the packaging icon or mascot based? I'm not sure what the word I would use is, but they're, familiar faces that are being changed. And then we have an article about Wells Fargo as well, and a comment a CEO made that got a great deal of pushback.
Yeah, and I
well, we'll leave it at that.
We'll save the chatter for that.
We'll save that, yeah. So moving right along, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
So this week I found this article. I was reading along on Facebook, and so everybody knows the ubiquitous Village People song YMCA. Mm-hmm. It's played at every wedding, probably every birthday party, every celebration. And Donald Trump has been using it now as he walks into to his stadiums for his rallies. And lots of people were complaining to to Felipe. You remember Felipe Rose, the Indian,
used to do that
right, from the
that
Village
strange
People.
call, right? Yeah.
Right. And there's been lots of changes in terms of people that have been part of the Village People group, and one of the constants has been Felipe. So a lot of people will send him messages saying, you need to not tell Donald Trump to use your song. You need to, and he gets very upset about it, and he posts on social media, I don't own the song. As long as he gets rights to use the song, we can't tell him he can't use the song, sort of thing. So there's that sidebar about it. And then the other issue about it is now the front man who has taken control over the group, and the original police, the original officer, the African-American front man, the original black cop, he is now saying that he's going to sue anybody in the media that says that the YMCA song is about gay or gay sex. So
in the Navy, you can sail the seven seas. Yeah,
maybe English songs. Anyway, allegedly. So Victor Willis. So he's Victor. So Victor Willis, the as they said, the sexy cop with a heck of a nightstick. You could tell this came out of Out magazine. He said he laid down the law about the meaning of the lyrics, and he's claiming it has nothing to do with hot guys hooking up at the Young Men's Christian Association of the YMCA. And Willis says, I will sue the next media organization or anyone else that falsely suggests YMCA is somehow about gay sex. Willis warned via his Facebook, adding, get your mind out of the gutter, please. Well, so apparently same-sex.
Was he the original? Like he's the original
cop, right?
And he still is a rights holder. Like he.
So there's been lots of legality in the last couple of years. He left the group. There was a new person brought in. The group has had many cowboys and leathermen and so forth over the years.
Yeah, that's like a rotating cast, right?
Right. There's been a rotating cast, is a good way. He's come back and claimed ownership, and he's the rightful owner of more than 30 songs that he's written in the group. So he said that he says he's written 100% of the lyrics, and I ought to know what my song is about. So he said that you can hang out with all the boys was a term about me and my friends playing basketball at the Y. Although he says he wrote the song even though he wrote the song, can apply to anyone's lifestyle, which we all know is, gay is not a lifestyle. The lyrics were written by me as an expression of urban youth having fun at the YMCA. And then it goes on to say, Willis also helped write over 30 songs performed by the group, including Smash Hits, Macho Man, and In the Navy. Again, nothing to do with anything, I guess, other than just having fun. He said YMCA has become an official anthem for many within the LGBTQ community since it was first released in '78, and it also has wider audience appeal. As I said, it's ubiquitous everywhere. And then prior to this, he got upset because when the Olympics happened in Russia, and Russia was having lots of anti-gay, not sentiment, but the
propaganda,
Putin's government crackdown, right?
Yeah.
They wanted the U.S. team. You were able to pick a song to walk into, and the Olympic athletes, the USA Olympic athletes, wanted to use YMCA to walk into the stadium at Sochi, and Willis wouldn't have it. He said no, he didn't want them to do that. This song isn't about protest. And the fact that gay people like the song's okay, but I don't want them using it for that, and I don't want to be part of a protest. So,
okay. This is kind of, I'm intrigued.
So I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I laugh because I don't think people assumed. I just think there was the disco era, the way the guys were dressed, the Village People was, right, the East Village or West Village. Mm-hmm. To represent, and there were male stereotypes, the cowboy, the construction worker, the cop, the Indian. And I remember our rowing coach grew up, Brian and I, rowing coach grew up in this era, and he bought a new car and he was very proud of it. And, straight guy, doesn't know better, goes to the auto parts store and buys a rainbow sticker because he thought it looked good and it matched the paint. So he puts this rainbow sticker on the back of his car. And he wants to tell Brian and I he's going to take us to breakfast. He goes, meet me out front. He was very proud. We go in a shower. We come out. He's got all his windows open, windows down. Car is blaring In the Navy, and then he's playing the Village People music. And Brian and I see the sticker. We're like, oh my God, is he coming out to us? Like, what's going on here? You just bought this car. So we get in the car and he turns down the radio. He goes, these boys got a bad rap. So we said, Coach, your car's really nice, but where'd you get that sticker? He goes, isn't that great? I saw that at the Pep Boys auto store. I thought it was really cool. We're like, well, Coach, that's a symbol for the gatekeeper. What? He's an older guy. So the sticker came off the car, but he just thought it looked nice against the paint color of his car, the maroon with the rainbow sticker. And meanwhile, he's blaring the Village People. Now, straight guy, I guess you could say, we were stereotyping. But have you always thought the Village People to be?
Yeah, I never even gave it a second thought that it could be any other way other than I was being signaled clearly in terms of how they chose their people. The ripped T-shirt construction worker, the leather guy. I mean, it was it was the flesh, the dance, the music, and the disco, the songs.
Macho Man in the Navy, YMCA, and I love what was it? Can't Stop the Music. I love Bruce Jenner's in there. I mean, you can't be any more inclusive.
Has anybody actually watched that movie lately? That is a once a decade viewing that you need to see. You need to see it because there are some numbers in there that you're like, okay. So I guess I kind of buy this, but not really. I mean, it sounds like, revisionist history. It's not about it's not about what you think it is, but it is. Right?
Or yeah. If it was just this one song, I would think I would buy the explanation. First of all, just ignore it. I would just have ignored it. I wouldn't have made such a big deal about it. Who cares? You're selling records. You're still getting money off it.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have a body of work that also included Macho Man and in the Navy,
but bump.
A little different, right? So there you have it. So what caught your eye?
Mine is a bit of silliness, actually, and which I find appropriate for the last couple of weeks we've been in. It's just like the drumbeat of the elections and all this other stuff going on. So a couple of weeks ago, Bob was suddenly reminded of a show he watched as a kid, and the show featured chimpanzees that were dressed up as people.
Oh, no.
And they were actors, and they would just move their mouths, and voices would come out. And they actually gave the chimps bubblegum to do this. So I said, what was the name of the show? And he said the name of the show was Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp. Now, do you remember this at all?
I do remember it being very creepy. And it's so right up Bob's alley, right? This kind of avant-garde left sort of thing. But yeah,
So in the world we live in now, you can search for anything, right? So we go to YouTube and I put in Lance Link, Secret Chimp, and up comes tons of episodes. And Bob said, I have a very specific memory of the chimps being at a ski resort somewhere, and they're on toboggans and they're skiing, and there's a woman. So we find this, there's a big lead in, there's all these characters. There's a guy called the Baron, who's the villain. There's a woman called the Duchess, and the Duchess, she's part of this like crime syndicate. And so we watched it. I could not stop laughing. And then the snow stuff came, and Bob's like, oh my God, this is the stuff I remember from being a kid. So I pulled a little clip.
When was it done?
I'm going
60s?
I'm going to tell you right now. Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp. Yeah, it was late 60s. I think it might have been 69 or 71. In a world inhabited by chimps instead of humans, Lancelot Link, along with partner Mata Hari, is one of the top agents of the Agency to Prevent Evil, APE. APE, Agency to Prevent Evil, a secret organization led by Commander Darwin that protects the world from wrongdoers. Their chief nemesis is Baron von Butcher, who leads the criminal headquarters for Underworld Master Plan. Criminal headquarters for Underworld Master Plan. Chump, an evil league bent on world conquest. So it's all set up for perfection. So here's a little clip for us that I think you're going to get a kick out of.
All right, what did you find out at the ski lodge, Marta?
I listened at the window and heard something important.
Yeah, what is it?
The Duchess is looking for a ski instructor. You'll have to pose as him so you can watch her.
Fine, except for one thing.
What's that, Lancelot?
I can't ski.
What do we do?
I'll have to learn something about skiing, starting with the ski mask here. Huh, where'd everyone go?
So
What a
Lancelot Link,
champ.
Secret Chimp. I encourage you to check it out. I mean, this is the age of television, I think, where you and I remember like Lidsville, Sigmund and this is before Sigmund
HR
and
Puff and stuff,
this is
right.
before that. But then we found a documentary on YouTube called "I Made Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp," and the guys explained how they did this. And there was these monkeys were pets or trained, and they would dress them up and then give them chewing gum and sit them on the stage. There's even a part of the show where they go to a club and there's a band of chimpanzees playing and there's psychedelic flowers and it's like watching the Partridge Family or something like that. It so silly, yes, but that's what caught my eye, and I just love this old stuff. I don't know if you could
PETA would go crazy with this now, right? I mean, you would not be able to do anything like this now, could you?
We actually brought that up, and I was gonna say myself for this that PETA would have their heads would explode. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're dressing them up as people. You can't. I mean, what they showed behind the scenes stuff, and the chimps clearly were not being mishandled, or they were just doing their thing. And after they would leave the set, they would go play, and they'd get their costumes off. And someone sold that to a network. Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp.
We need to program our own network. We should get a network of. You and I have often been critical of what they used to do over at Logo or not do over at Logo.
Yeah.
We should program our own network. We'll feature some of these old things that just will never see the light of day again. I wonder if it's copyright issues, because I don't, I remember this now that you bring it up, but I've never seen it probably in 40 years?
Possibly, but you and I watched similar TV growing up. I mean, we had some different channels because of before cable, but I don't really remember this. This was, I couldn't stop laughing. And Bob, when there's more of the snow stuff, they do skiing, there's a chase scene, there's a snowball fight, and the diamond's in one of the snowballs. And then the Lancelot Link guy has this ray gun that slows people down. And he slows down the villains by shooting them, and then they're like, Lancelot, we're going to get you. But they must have given the chimps less chewing gum or something because their mouths are moving differently. And we watched a couple episodes, and it would truly transport us away from the day's headlines, I'll tell you that much.
I was going to say, you forget Ratchet and some of the other things. John's got Lancelot Link,
Secret Chimp, yeah.
I wonder what's going on there at your house. Now we know. Well, thank you for bringing that up. That was a good trip down memory lane.
And lighthearted.
Yes, very much so.
All right,
Very
so
much
now
so.
we got business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So it rarely happens, but today, September 30th, is John T. Nash's birthday. Mr. John Nash, my partner in crime here. And usually when we've done these things in studio, it's a couple days before, a couple days after. And I wanted to send John some food or something, but I didn't know exactly where he might be. So I found these socks with little sharks on them. So Sharky the Shark Socks. Many of you know that we work with Deep Discount, and John is our character of Sharky the Shark. So I got him these Sharky the Shark Socks from J. Crew. So I hope you enjoy those.
They arrived just in time.
Just in time. The other thing I did is I went through. So for many years, I would do this whole list and rambling thing of John's accomplishments and where he was born and what he did. And in one of them from 2000, I think this is 2012, I had asked your mom a question about you. And so of all the different narratives that I did over the years for your birthdays for the last 12 or 13 years, I found one paragraph that I just thought was really sweet. And I thought, again, for this time, it made a lot of sense. So it says, I asked this question of your mom when she was a guest on the show. I said, how was John growing up? Or how was John different? Or was John a challenge growing up? And your mom, Carol, said that she said, as a child, he was unique and defiant in many ways. and then she paused, and then she said, I never thought much about it other than just John was John. He was my son, and I love him. And I just thought that encapsulated a lot of who you are, that you were you were unique and you were defiant in many ways. And but the fact is, at the end of the day, you were loved and your mom loved you. And I just thought that was, of all the things I could have picked out from all the years of things I'd written and tried to make them different, I thought that one stuck out the most. So I wanted to share that.
You should have added that I was a terrible student, like especially in mathematics. But she didn't go there.
Well, I said I did have on here one of them. Another one I pulled. John learned the fine art of education outside of the classroom by learning he could make money selling his homework.
That was my favorite because she discovered that when she was dusting a bookshelf, and she pulled out some of my Hardy Boy books, and money fell out of the books because that's where that was my bank. I would hide the money in different Hardy Boy books. And then it was a wait till your father gets home moment. Now, I put up here 2 pictures that you saw a little bit earlier. One of, I think I'm 4 years old on the left with a little suit and tie on and that hair. And on the right, a businessman is a businessman, right? My sister and I set up a lemonade stand. And Bob and I were recently at this corner. Is that your sister, Lisa? That's Lisa with a little tiara on. I guess the tiara was to entice people to buy lemonade, right? So this house is in Grove Avenue in Glens Falls, New York. And when Bob and I went up to see the Star Trek exhibit up in Ticonderoga, where they rebuilt the Desilu sets, on the way down from Ticonderoga, we went right through Glens Falls. We had lunch there. And my mom had sent me a picture of our old house, which I should have put in here. We found it. The neighborhood doesn't look quite like this anymore. I'll just say that. It's a little spotty. But yeah, that's the...
Do you remember making any money at the lemonade stand?
I don't even remember doing this. This is one of those things where, your parents show you a photo album and you're like, I guess we did this. I have no memory of this. But look at me, saucy with that little hand on the
Well,
hip.
I love your sister's got the robe on, or the apron on. And then, and if you're watching, I love the fact that you even had 3 sizes of lemonade. You had small, medium, and large. You had the yellow cup, the blue cup, the green cup. I wonder what you charged. It was probably a nickel, a penny, a nickel, a dime.
I'm sure whatever it was, my mom was losing money. That's all I'm going to say. Although the last time this came up and I brought up the Glens Falls to my mom, I got quite a memory lane story from her. She's like, "Oh, you were mom's little helper when we lived in Glens Falls," because I was 3 years old, almost a little over 2, and Laura was about 3 or 4 months, my youngest sister. And apparently my mom had arm surgery and she couldn't move her right arm, and she would rely on my memory to run around the house. She'd be like, "Could you please get mommy this following thing? And it's in the kitchen. It's over here." And I would run around and get it all. And she said to me on the phone, she goes, "You were a lifesaver." And she goes, "I doubt you remember any of it." I'm like, "Nope, not a thing." Because, think, what was your earliest memory, actually?
Yeah, I tried to think about that the other day because I have friends that say, "Oh, I remember at 6 months old." You remember nothing 6 months old. Do you remember anything at 6 months old?
No.
I had a friend that swears he does, and I just think he's full of nonsense. But I have a memory of being dropped off at kindergarten, and my mom making a big deal about kind of pushing me in the door and sending me on my way. But beyond that, and I also have a memory about me getting in trouble with picking strawberries and I got in a neighbor's strawberry patch, and we lived on a little farm. And I was in there with my little footprint, stepped all over the plants, made a big mess, and had the seeds and the juice all over my face. And my mother, were you in, Worcester, whatever, Ridgeway's strawberry? No, strawberries all over your fingers. So I remember that, but I don't know why I remember that. But that's my earliest memory, I think.
Yeah, I have a bunch, and they're all random. There's no rhyme or reason. Like, I'll remember Boy Scout camp, the first time I launched an Estes rocket. I'll remember middle school. I do remember the time I brought my sister's Flatsy doll to show and tell and got kind of beat up at recess. But Flatsy.
That was later on, though. You remember those times. How old were you? Probably 8?
Well, that was that would be like 3rd or 4th grade. So yeah, you're older, and you're definitely remembering stuff then, because that was right before I went to 5th grade at Memorial School. That was Shepherdson.
Your mother let you bring your sister's doll for show and tell?
No, she didn't really let me.
No,
I took it. It came in a little flat plastic house because everything was flat. It was a Flatsy doll, flat purse, flat shoes, flat everything. I was obsessed with the damn thing. I show it to class. I sit down, and one of my kids I grew up with, Brian, was about 2 rows behind me, and all through the rest of show and tell, I kept hearing Flatsy. And then I would hear recess, flatsy. And so the class emptied out when the bell rang, and I'm clutching that flatsy thing close to my chest, the little house. And the teacher's like, you got it, Mrs. Bertucci. She goes, you got to go out to recess. John was like, no, I don't. No, yes, you do. And I went out, and it was by the old oak tree. But Flatsy
Did they take care of Flatsy?
I was not injured. Flatsy was injured. So they took the little plastic house, put it on the ground, and jumped up and down. And it was shattered. I brought it home off the school bus, and I'm like really upset. And my mom, she just kind of looked at me. She goes, why'd you bring that? She goes, that's your sister's. Now, she didn't say it was a doll. She just said, this is your sister's. And she said, you should. She said, when you do show and tell, you bring something that you have, not something of your sister's. Which was a kind of a coded way of saying you don't bring a Barbie doll to show and tell. If you're maybe nowadays you do. We're treading into dangerous territory. We better move on.
Well, anyway, happy birthday. Are you doing anything special for your birthday today?
We're gonna have dinner with Gary, and no, nothing much except later today an eye exam, which I haven't had one of those in about. Can you believe how often do you get your eyes checked?
You're supposed to go every year or every other year. I haven't been in probably 3, and I need to go.
Guess how many? Guess how many it's been for me.
I'm gonna say 5 or 6.
Add 4, and you're close.
Really? Because you had some sort of readers. You didn't like them though.
Last time I went was like 2010 or 11, and I got mild reading glasses because I have astigmatism. I guess one eye focuses differently. The glasses came, I put them on. I did not like what they did. They did keystoning. A lot of you listening will probably understand what I'm saying. Like you look at a book or something and the bottom is smaller than the top. And I just stopped wearing them. I didn't use them. And with Kindles and iPads, you could change point sizes. You could change your monitor. So I kind of skidded by for all these years until probably 3 months ago, I noticed that the readers were actually very effective with the computer.
Well, it's amazing to me that your eyes have lasted as long as they did, because mine went way before yours. But because you could still read that little mouse type. I can't read any of that stuff. I'm lost. If I go to a store and haven't brought readers or glasses, I've got to go to the counter and get a pair with the tag on it, walk around so I can see what's going on, then put them back.
Do you know who says that too? Is Greg. Greg is the same way. And when his went, they went fast. It wasn't a slow progression. He just went down to certain things. So seeing the doctor today, and then we have dinner, and it's a nice quiet birthday. Well,
we'll celebrate when we're in person someday.
Yay.
So in the meantime, happy birthday. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got shop talk, as John mentioned, and we're going to talk about some brands that are changing their focus a little bit. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now, back to The Focus Group with Tim and John.
Glamour today is nothing but a tight skirt, loose hips, and wet lips.
An entertaining look at the world of business.
Make it work. Make it work. Make it work.
Hey, welcome back to The Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett, and I chose that rejoin because Tim Gunn was one of my favorite guests. He's one of my favorite people in general. I just think he's such a cool guy and a great mentor. Focusgroupradio.com is the URL of our site, and that's where you're going to find everything out about us, including all our media is, here's my new favorite word, warehoused there. It's housed there, including our Tuesday podcast, which comes out on Tuesdays, and you can get any day of the week. It's buttoned. All right, so we had a couple of stories that Tim and I crossed on, meaning that we both pulled them, because we sometimes do this separately and then combine our ideas later. And the first two are about Uncle Ben's and cream of wheat. And the Uncle Ben's story, I suppose we had known about this for a while, that there had been an intention to change the packaging, right?
Right.
So what happened here is basically they're going to be retiring what they call is the I say, what's the word?
Mascot?
Yeah.
The image?
It's... Yeah, I don't know the right word for something like this because it's an illustration. It reminds me of Aunt Jemima, or like these putting people or these illustrated people on food for years. Well, they're changing the rice brand's name. So the name is changing as well. So it's going to go from Uncle Ben's to just Ben's Original, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
And like So it's just they want to eliminate any negativity or stereotyping or racial stereotyping around the packaging, which does feature a black chef or an African American chef or man who is Uncle Ben. And I think there's a lot of associations that are not positive with that. So this is something that's been in the works for a while, but I had not known that the name was going to change as well.
Yeah, it dates. So the image they said dates back to the 40s, and they're going to change it to, as you mentioned, Ben's original. The one thing I did laugh about, and I understand that when you're a large corporation, you have to make changes, that things take time. But I did laugh here because it said, while implementing an evolution on this scale will be complex, the process will take considerable time. But they're going to do it, and you'll see this new brand identity sometime probably next year. It's a box. I mean, obviously they've got probably a bunch of Uncle Ben's boxes that are printed, but how difficult? You're still going to put the same product in there. All you're doing is changing the name and taking the illustration off of who was known as, quote, Uncle Ben. I wondered why they thought this was going to be such a complex process.
You bring up a great point, and Tim has often told a story, and I'm just going to retell it, where if you're in a meeting at an auto company and a manufacturer, and someone says, I want to change the button on this radio. Now you're looking at a 5-cent part that possibly takes 2 or 3 years to put into production because of all the different processes, right?
Right. And the big thing with auto, particularly if somebody says, oh, let's change the key or let's do something like that, different than obviously a box of rice. In the U.S., we have the strictest, and I'm glad we do. We have the strictest
safety
laws,
yeah,
safety laws of any country in the world. So things have to be crash tested. So if you change a key, you change a button on something, the cars then need to go through certification and crash testing because they don't want anything to pierce anybody, hit anybody, cut anybody in case of bad accidents. So yeah, I understand that. If you just said, listen, we'll do it when we're going to do changing and the cars go to get recertified again from NHTSA, but
a box is a box.
And a box of rice.
It's a box is a box. And, Land O'Lakes, when they removed the Native American woman who used to be on the box, and we talked about that months ago, within 2 weeks of you and I doing that story on Focus Group, not that we had anything to do with it, but within 2 weeks of reading about it, every package I saw at the grocery store changed. And it's possibly because they moved through so much of that product that they were able to, exhaust the old container supply and have the new ones ready. But I agree with you. This is not something that should take more than, I don't know, a couple weeks.
Right. It's not like they've got 20 years of Uncle Ben's boxes hanging around in print boxes. I mean, these things are, first in, last out sort of thing, or first in, first out. Along with this article, they mentioned Aunt Jemima's as well, and you've mentioned it, that they're also going to take the iconography of the woman, the black woman with the...
she looked like something from Gone with the Wind or something, right?
Right. So they're going to change that packaging as well because they said it was based on a racial stereotype, and I totally understand that. What I found odd about this, and my question in the margin here was, are you going to change the name?
Yeah.
So just taking off the woman's image. So you're still going to call it Aunt Jemima's, but you're just taking the picture off. And then where this led me to, because Cream of Wheat's doing the same thing. And so what does this remind you of? I was going to see if you thought the same thing I did.
I don't know.
So this reminded me an awful lot of when you and I did our early work with LGBTQ marketing at Subaru, and you and I were constantly getting letters or talked to about the depiction of people. So we would do an ad, and maybe it was 2 women, or we would do an ad with 2 men, and it would be like, where's the person of color? Where's the person in the wheelchair?
People didn't see themselves in the ad, yeah.
Where's the transgender person? So you and I made the decision of no people. No, so we got rid of all people and all the advertising after 1 or 2 years of going through this. And this reminds me of the same thing because I don't necessarily think, maybe I'm wrong, maybe Uncle Ben's, or Uncle Ben's has a connotation of a negative stereotype. I don't think the guy's picture. I'm not offended by the picture.
No, he's a smiling guy, but I think the whole implication is that somehow that he's less than, or it's a right. demeaning depiction. Now you mentioned Cream of Wheat, right? And that was the other one we were going to talk about here, which is they're also changing their packaging to remove the chef which, by the way, was an interesting thing to me. It says here, the 127-year-old brand's decision follows a similar move from Uncle Ben's. According to Cream of Wheat, the black chef that has appeared on its packaging for over 100 years is based on Chicago master chef Frank L. White. Due to backlash from consumers who found the depiction of White and the brand's original logo offensive, the brand announced today that the chef will be removed from all packaging. Per a statement by Cream of Wheat parent company B&G Foods, new packaging will be unveiled early next year. Again, with the early next year, like
Right.
I guess they got. Hey, I should note that I remember once I had a friend who worked for Landor Communications. They were a big branding company, and he invited me in to see their test supermarket one day. So they had this entire row of a supermarket recreated in their offices that they brought people in to do research on, and they were testing a new color for Maxwell House coffee. So it was a row of blue packages that were subtly different from each one, and they would observe people and who went to the blue that got the most attention became the new Maxwell House blue. We're talking about like a $2 million research project on this. I'm wondering if they're doing the same. The thing that got me about this was, you know, they depicted a master chef,
Right.
named, you know, Frank L. White. And I don't, do they need to remove it, or do they need to add something like, you know, this to say this guy was a master chef and he was well known and well liked, and that's why we wanted to put him on the packaging? You know what I'm getting at? Is that maybe that's
No. You read my mind, and I thought again, you know, do we now get rid of Betty Crocker and all the other people that have, you know, the Gerber baby, you know, all the things where we use images of people on products, and do we just get rid of all of them? Because now somebody will say, well, you know, Betty Crocker's image, because she's a white woman, it's different than using the master chef. I don't know if it is different, but I suppose it is. If people feel, I guess, that it's a racial stereotype, so be it. But in this case, I don't think this Cream of Wheat was a racial stereotype, but I think it's caught up in the whole discussion of let's not use stereotypes and old iconography to sell products. And
as you were speaking, I just thought of something that would have crossed your desk had this been a brand you were working on. So let's say someone said, why don't we simply explain to the consumer that this depiction of the chef is actually based on this guy who was a loved master chef, and he's being, you know, honored to be on the box somehow. I bet you would have pushed back and said, if you can do it in a word, great. But, you know, as I was saying it, think of how you would have to do a new image and text to actually circumvent the whole problem by saying, no, don't. It's nothing offensive. This guy was he was known for, you know, he made the best cream of wheat in the world, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I guess
it's not worth doing.
There
it's
you
not
go.
Worth doing. It's exactly what you said. You know, we had done a commercial with Martina Navratilova, and it was a tennis commercial because she's a, you know, world-renowned tennis player. And in the commercial, she's hitting balls, and there's a ball that just misses one of the line judges, and the line judge was African American, so he cast an African American person in there. And while we thought we were going to get LGBT letters about using Martina in a commercial, we were inundated with letters that we made the black man look foolish.
The line judge.
Because he missed the ball.
But he's a line judge.
Exactly. So if you knew anything about tennis, you knew he was a line judge, and what she was doing is hitting the ball and precision. So we ended up having to take commercial down because it ended up being, it just wasn't worth trying to explain to somebody that if you know tennis and you know that there's a line judge was there. It wasn't making fun of a person of color. It wasn't making fun of the black man. It wasn't any of that. He was a line judge, and she was hitting tennis balls. So, but we had that with everything. You had the tree lobby, the snake lobby, the this lobby, the that lobby, the bunny lobby. And anytime you did anything. And that's why you and I, listen, when you and I decided to take people out of the LGBTQ, it all went away. Right? It all
the problems went away. They only resurfaced actually on the very first time we did television advertising for Subaru for the LGBT consumer on Logo, and we premiered the ads at something called Out and Equal. And at that time, it was out in Denver, and I had flown out with then the head of sales for Logo, a guy named Tom, and we premiered the ads, and people were standing up, they were applauding, except someone in the back raised their hand and very politely said, I would like to know why trans individuals were not cast in these roles. And I didn't even know what to say because I hadn't prepared for it. And Tom just said, let me handle it. And he steps up to the mic. He goes, we see what we want to see, perhaps that couple. He answered it beautifully, but again, it was one of those moments. Gotcha. Right.
Well, and that's the great thing about the LGBTQ community is kind of the rainbow of people that are part of it. But that's also the double-edged sword, because then you're not going to be able to depict everybody, single person as part of the community. But as a consumer, it's a great consumer to target. But if you're going to try to think you're going to satisfy everybody's how everybody sees themselves and let them complete the circle, it's going to be a difficult thing to do. So,
and I think we actually ended up with better work because we ended up having to do things with language that the consumer had to connect the dots, finish the circle.
Yep.
So it was better work. Our last piece here is Wells Fargo CEO apologizes for saying the black talent pool is limited. So Charlie Scharf, who has been in place as the CEO of Wells Fargo since the entire mess they had with false accounts and all that other stuff coming up, he was quoted as saying that it's very difficult to promote diversity in the bank because of a very limited pool of black talent to recruit from. He received immediate pushback on this, and later on restated it, saying that they have to work harder for diversity and a whole bunch of things. But I'm just going to say this: I wonder if this was completely misinterpreted, because when you look at recruiting and you look at where graduates are coming from, what programs they're studying, what industries they want to go to, you may actually have difficulty if you are doing a diversity quota, I want to call it, or a racial quota. You may actually have difficulty recruiting certain candidates for certain industries just because of the sheer fact that many people may not have studied. Or was that your takeaway? I don't think the guys.
Yeah, I thought this was totally taken out of context, because if you actually read what he said, I thought he actually was smart about what he said. I think the sensational headline out of here is that he was saying that black people weren't qualified to work at Wells Fargo. That was your takeaway reading the headline. That's not what he said. He did say we need a more diverse representation on our operating committee, which was referring to the top executives. But then he went on to say, well, it might sound like an excuse. The unfortunate reality is we have a very limited pool of black talent to recruit from, meaning to move up into the ranks. So he said our progress will not be straight line given the experience required in some of our roles. But I ask you to judge our progress 2 years into my tenure rather than right now. So he said, we're going to try and we're going to work toward this. But in order to get somebody to move into a senior executive role, if you haven't nurtured the managers, and same with women, same with LGBTQ people, same with any diverse candidates, if you don't have managers on the front line that are in those positions, to just say you're going to hire in people into the top ranks is a disservice to everybody. So I understand what he's saying. We struggled with this at Subaru. I struggled with it at my small college in Ohio, and trying to get more diversity and inclusion. And people are trying, but I think it's not going to happen overnight, because exactly what you said, sometimes people might not even know about you. We used to say this at Subaru. There were 35 auto manufacturers. Mm-hmm. And if you were what would be considered a diverse candidate, and you were an engineer, or you had a specialty in planning or design or something, you'd start with General Motors, Ford, Toyota, Chrysler, Mercedes. By the time you got down to Subaru,
you might have been hired. Right.
Well, you know what I mean? So it became this percentages game, and it used to just drive me crazy, because I would say, if you want to just play the percentage game, you're going to get yourself in trouble. But let's hire the best talented people that want to work here. And so I thought this was a little unfair to this CEO, because I think I understood what he said. I think it was taken out of context. And,
but to me, this is emblematic of everything nowadays. There is no desire to have a finer conversation about something. And the conversation we're having now, that we're simply saying, And it's just a fact. Maybe there is a limited number of individuals or candidates coming out of schools and programs. Maybe they're going to different organizations, and by the time it's exactly what you said. And yet everybody jumps on the lead, right? Which is CEO says X, Y, Z, and then he has to do all this communication work to walk it back. You almost wonder why they say anything at all.
Well, that's the fear with a lot of this stuff, and that was always my when I had the role within advertising and marketing, as well as we had lots. Jesse Jackson used to come in every year and talk to us about diversity and getting a diverse dealer body and all these other issues, and we were very much behind that. The brand was very progressive. We had senior executives that were females before other brands. We used diverse agencies. We were the first to do LGBTQ marketing campaigns, supported a lot of
same-sex partner benefits
events. I mean, there was lots of things that the brand was doing. But in order to try to attack talent, when Subaru was not in an area that had other automobile manufacturers. So if you're in LA and there's 12 automobile manufacturers within 10 miles, it's easy to recruit automotive talent.
But there's one other thing that you said that's very important, and that's like if Jesse Jackson came in and said that the dealers need to be more diverse, that's not under your umbrella. If anybody knows the auto industry, the cars are sold by independent individuals. They don't have to sell your car; they choose to. They're aligned with the brand, but you don't have any control over the dealerships hiring people, right?
No, you don't have any control on that, but you do have control of where you place auto dealers and so forth. And the dealers are in many cases a lot smarter about their market than the manufacturer is. But what I used to try to say, and I would say to these things, and it was never a popular opinion, but I would say if there were 100 people, and if I did 100 commercials, and you want representation now, so of my 100 commercials, if you're Asian and you're 6% of the population, then there should only be 6 of them that feature an Asian person, and 12 of them that feature African Americans, and 14 that feature Hispanics, and then the rest will be white. So it's not going to be 50-50 if you want to play the percentage game, right? It's not going to be 50-50
which is what they did,
if you're looking for percentages. And then it all falls apart. And that's why we said we talk to people for who they are. And if you're a mountain biker or you're a skier or you're a photographer or a gardener, I don't care if you're male, female, black, white, young, old, you're of that mindset. I'm not looking at demographics. And I think, kudos to Subaru after all these years. I think that's part of their success is that they talk to people for who they are. They're not playing now we need a commercial for women. Now we need a commercial for this. Now we need a commercial for that.
How true, right?
Anyway, I'm on my soapbox.
No, get off the soapbox. We're all done for the day.
So anyway, hey, everybody, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Mr. John Nash
thank you.
Today. And thank all of you for joining us. You can be sure to catch our Tuesday podcast on Tuesday. I like that now. That's our new line, John. Find everything. All of our media is housed over at focusgroupradio.com. You can find our podcast there as well as all of our new and old shows. And we're pretty much anywhere where you can download media for free. So thank you for staying with us through all of these kind of different and odd times. And we will see you next week. Be sure to wear your mask, everybody.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.